Hey, what's up, guys? So, we got a couple hours before CC, and I'm just at the last minute throwing this video together. But this is basically a counter Doolum's defense video. And this is all just spur of the moment. I did some testing today, and some of the stuff I didn't test. I haven't watched his video, so I don't totally know his concepts on the defenses and what his game plan is. And this is not at all to slight Doolum. You can see Doolum is well established in the top 100, so I think he has some good ideas, but mostly because when he puts his defense out there, a lot of guys do go with it. And so these are just my first thoughts on some things that could work. None of this is foolproof. Like I said, I've tested some things, and there's some things on the counter sheet that you guys can go to as well. But at the end of the day, I think that it's worth having some ideas on how you counter this. This is currently where I'm ranked in CC, and so this is what I would think to do as two guys that are in the top 100 to counter his defense. Not saying that he can't counter mine with ease, but these are my first thoughts. And so I plugged in this defense. Now, I'm not able to show you guys the way they would with the team at the bottom because they can do this stuff in the test server. But what I will do is I'll go into this one tune at a time, or one team at a time. And I think I have all of his rooms set up the same way. And so I'm trying to at least get the video kind of recorded so that I can put my defense back in. And then I'll show you guys what I'm running at the end here and give you the idea behind where I'm doing what I'm doing. So this is Doolum's room 1. And I get the idea of the docking in there is to stop a tangled web. And so I did some tangled web counters to see if docking can pull that off. Now this is PvP, and you got to remember that the tunes are going to have more health, and they're going to have, I think it's 20% more health, and it's 10% more damage. So the idea is still you want to try to make sure you get to this Thanos before he can do his passive, because that and Kahori are the keys to this room. And so the first team that I tried, and this had a lot to do with Horvick. He was saying, just go ahead and let's try to use Big Time. And Big Time does work, because you got to remember Big Time has a disrupt and a blind to the tune with the highest, or whoever he targets. And so he's going to most likely end up targeting the Miss Marvel, so that puts a blind on her, so you don't have to worry about her so much. Now, in our conversation, I have a 3 diamond 99, so that was my concern before I started suggesting this. And he said that he had a 1 diamond 99. Now that is still G19 level 100. Mine is a P3, so I don't know if you need a P3 on your 99, but that's kind of where it is in the game where we are. I think you have to have him at a P3. And so he was saying that he has a 1 diamond 99, and I can't remember if he said he took the hit from Kahori with a 2 diamond Kahori or 3 diamond, but either way it goes, his 99 survived. And so when we did the test, Dockin hit right into him, and he lived. And so Kahori, I can't remember if she hit 99 or not, but at the end of the day, my 99 was still alive. And after that, she goes into Black Knight, and Black Knight counters her a couple times. And so it just sets everything up. Now 99 went into the Miss Marvel, and then I was able to stun the hard light with the Weaver. And so I had to do some different targeting because the Thanos, and not in CC, if I'd have targeted Thanos, he probably would have fell low and got procced. So I targeted, I think it was hard light left. And then I punched the Thanos. So this counter can work. You may have to do some things differently in live play, but this is an option for that room 1. Another option that I used was to go in with the Nightcrawler and Storm. And because Storm is a controller, she's going to get hit, and that takes away from 99. It could have been 99 got hit on that last one instead of, my Big Time got hit instead of the 99 on that last one. But either way it goes, this counter works. I did this version with Beast and not Nightcrawler. It works. I don't know that that's the ideal way to go, but if you need your Nightcrawler somewhere else, you could use him. We talked about using Cable here because Cable could possibly kill somebody. and of course he's gonna reduce that speed bar if you use his special. So Cable is an option for this as well. So if you need 99 somewhere else, you can use Cable, you can use Beast. I thought about Polaris because both Polaris and Storm are controllers. You could throw in Polaris because Polaris should get hit before Storm, and then Storm has a slow and a stun where you can stun someone. But I think she will still live. Now this is in PvP testing, so in live gameplay it'd be different, but I think she still lives and she's able to do her special, and in that way, whoever you're targeting would get possibly a stun and then a slow. And so to save on your Nightcrawler and those other X-Men, you could just throw in Nova. And I think Nova will be able to stun probably the hard light, because you should have the taunt stripped. Now, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if Storm is going to be able to stun the Miss Marvel or not, but the idea is you should be able to stun somebody with these two in there. Once again, this counter is still based on Nightcrawler blinding the Miss Marvel, and then your Black Knight retaliating the Kahuri, and that way you can set up the APOC to punch into the Thanos. So there are a lot of counters here. We'll go into the ones that I remember, and then we'll talk about how you can have variations of. But let's go into the first one, because this is a Saw counter, and these are kind of one-shot possibilities. So I did not do this counter, and I did not see it. I heard about it, I saw the screenshot. And so Skaw is number one, and this is what he used to one-shot that Odin Illuminati. Now, I think the key thing here is that he had a built-up Echo, and I only have one diamond. I ended up buying one diamond because it does make a difference. So you'd have to G19 her and put P3 Ford on her for this to have a chance to work. That's the key things I remember. But this is a team that could actually one-shot that Odin Illuminati. Here's another idea. Now, I did this a couple seasons ago, so this will still work. It's very expensive though. And what you want to keep in mind is that you probably are going to need your APOC for room 1. So this is not the ideal counter anymore, but it is an option. So if you have a setup where you have Odin on offense and he has Odin on defense, this counter will work for one shot. Now, here was a counter that my opponent Phoenix used on me, and he was able to one-shot the Odin Illuminati. So if you have Mephisto on offense, then you can do this, and all he did was just hard target this. Now, there's no pre-taunt in here, so it's a Black Bolt version, but he was able to just go right in and hard target the Odin. He did Mephisto's basic pack, then I believe he did Mephisto's basic, and then by that time, Odin was so weak, it was like almost over. Now the counter is on the counter sheet, so you can go there. I think the timestamp is wrong, so I will correct that and make sure that's where you can go right to it. But at the end of the day, this is a really good counter, and these are the one shots. So if you use Echo, you gotta remember that she's gotta be maxed out still, even for this, because the idea is that she lives as long as possible. I did this with Johnny, and I've seen other guys use it on me. This is either with the Sasquatch version or the Black Bolt version. And so you're still hoping for that RNG, but the Guardian gives more kick to the Moondragon. And Moondragon has to get the Striker ISO attack, the bonus attack. So if you go in and you're not able to get it, then you just come back out and you do it again, and then you hope that she can get him that time. If you're not able to, then yeah, you can't clear this room. But that will be the idea behind this sack. I think that the skirms make a difference because the tunes are so high in their resistance now. You need skirm more than Raider so that the focus is better. And that's the idea behind having the rest of them in skirm. And so you don't need the Nebula in this one, but you do need the Phyla, and definitely I think even though Gamora is going to probably put a taunt on your Moondragon, I think you're better off with Gamora in here than not in here, because I've tried it with Echo and Guardian, no Gamora, and it did work better with her in here. And so what we did is we went in with this version of Superior 6, Sinister 6 with the Vulture. I think you could probably still get by with the Lizard, and it'll be up to you who you pull. You could probably pull Ak, because you get the offense up from the Slayer, and you can also pull the Slayer and you probably will still be able to clear it. But once that Captain Britain is gone, this team is so fast that they were just able to take out Odin and the rest of the team. Now, if you're not able to take them out and you still have an Odin left for some reason, then you could clean it up if you had that last hit with your new warriors. If you have Illuminati on offense, then you should be able to go right in after that sack and just do Illuminati on that Captain Britain-less Odin Illuminati. I haven't done it because I've had Illuminati on defense, but my first thought is if you have Illuminati on offense, you can sack it. If you get Captain Britain out, then you can go in with this team, and this will work fine. I've seen different versions here of this work. I think on the counter sheet, this is the version. I'm not sure of the placement order. I think this was the placement order, actually. I don't think they had Old Man Logan behind Lizard. I think Old Man Logan was to the corner. So you could try this if you could spare your Old Man Logan. I think most of us would not be able to. And so I still think you're pretty fine. If you did use your Nightcrawler here, you could probably go with a Slayer, or you could go with Craven. But once again, the full Superior 16 did beat it, so if you need your Nightcrawler elsewhere, I think you'd be fine. You don't necessarily have to go in with this counter. The idea is you would have to have either or, Superior 6 on offense or your Illuminati on offense. So these are just first thoughts. So just keep that in mind, but these are options to have when you're looking at that dueling defense. So now when it comes to this room, I think there's only one team I'd really go with, but there are two options. You could go in with Nightcrawler and the Mercs for money. This is a bit RNG still. The idea is Nightcrawler gives Old Man Logan evades. And so as long as your Old Man Logan doesn't get hit early on, which is 90% chance this works, there's a 10% chance that Odin could, that your Old Man Logan get hit early on by the scroll and the gore. But in most cases that doesn't happen. And so the problem with this counter is you'd have to go through that scroll. You'd have to go through everybody twice. So what I tend to lean towards, and once again, I think you want her as a skirmisher here, is use Black Cat. Now, by no means is this 100%. It's still a 90% counter. They do tend to go after Black Cat. She's got the death proof, so she'd be around to do her first move, sometimes her second. And once again, this is not an efficient counter. It's just to one-shot the room. I've done it a number of times with the same exact defense. Not in room 3, it's usually in room 2, so it would be interesting to see how it would play out in room 3. But if you're looking for the one shot, this is what I would lean towards doing. And so that way you would have a chance to clear, even with bad efficiency, with a one shot. So with this defense, I think it's a couple things you'll be looking at. If you have Odin. If you don't have Odin on offense, I think you just go in with the double sack and you just go ahead and go in with your Night Stalkers. That's the most ideal to clean this up. Some guys are still able to make the new Warriors work with Kestrel. I think that's a little bit risky. And you could also do your Cabal with Kang and Titania. If you didn't need Cabal elsewhere, that could probably work. If you do have Odin on offense, this would be my first thought, is to go ahead and try Odin with your Night Stalkers. I don't know that this will be extremely efficient, because at the end of the day, the barrier is going to be on that Orcus. But I think the team is still fast enough and durable enough to where the idea is you just want to get your Odin going. You may lose a tune or two here, but I think you'd be fine going in with this team. Or you could just use this team here. Now, I think this is a bit riskier, but once again, if you did need your Cabal and Kang elsewhere, you could go in, and the hope would be that you could get your Odin going. The risk is if he doesn't, then you might have a problem getting through that Orcus, because Orcus could come in pretty fast. They do hit into the mutants, and so that means you could lose your Namor because he's a mutant. But aside from that, I think this is a possible counter, and those are just like for one shot. So once again, I would lean more towards that Orcus with the Night Stalkers, and then Odin. This is an option. Now, once again, these are all just first thoughts, so just keep that in mind as what you're looking at here. Now, since we know that we probably would use, unless you have the Superior 6 and Illuminati on offense, then of course you could use your Superior 6 and or Illuminati here. But if you only have one or the other, you're probably going to use it on his Odin Illuminati team. So I would lean towards using this. Now, you could probably try placement orders like this because I think Photon is a value here. So you do want her passive to kick in with the Cosmic Ghost Rider or the Robbie. And this would be what I would lean towards using on that. Now, you do have, there is a bit of RNG to it still. The idea is that your Icarus and your Cersei are going to just lay the groundwork here. But the Lizard should not be a threat to this particular counter. The other option would be just to go in and put Cosmic Ghost Rider in there. And you already know the two Ghost Riders, their ability to work together. So this could be an option as well to counter that room. These are what I would lean towards if this is what I was left with to go into that room. And it may not be high efficiency, but I think you would get at least an average score, which would be around an 8361. So now, last but not least, we have this room here. Now, like I said, I didn't look at this video, and I get the idea of Morgan in here because if she goes, which she should go pretty quickly, that would get the your Shadow King going. I just don't know how that plays against the counters we already have. And so I would still lean towards using what we know. So I think you're still pretty safe with Cabal, Kang, and Titania. I would lean towards using that. I think probably an Emma could work here. And so you would have that as an option. But I think Cabal would be your safe bet. You go in with Cabal here, and then you take care of it. I think other options, because I don't know that you really need Kang anywhere else, would be to use a Zemo. But things like Zemo and LDS could be possible teams, just your strong villains. And I would still be inclined to try something like this. Now, my thought is, when you put Falcon in here, I don't know that you need to go with his special first here. I think because of the speed of this team, if things are going according to plan, you could just go with his ult. And I think that the North Star is in there for versions that have a dorm, but I would probably use Kestrel. Now, North Star still does a lot because he has a slow and he has he puts in a lot of damage with his ult. It is AoE, so he could still be an option here. But I probably would lean towards a Kestrel just because he's going to get the pings. And I think this team, from what I'm seeing, it should still work. It may not be as efficient, but the idea is that you want to get that Shadow King and that Doctor Strange out as soon as possible. And so if you're able to do this, then I think you're fine. Now, once again, I haven't seen his video, so I'm not quite sure how the Morgan affects this counter. And I don't remember if I've gone against it or not, but this is what I would lean towards going into that room. So I'm finishing things up. I just want to show you guys my defense. And I'm going to make a couple changes here, just since this is all still about experimenting to a degree. Now, this first room, I want to give credit to Nemesis. This is what he came up with, so I'm running the same thing because I think it makes it for a hard counter to do if you one-shot it or you double sack it. There's just some issues with how you got to go about it. And basically, if you're double sacking it, you got to be careful that you totally pull Kahori's, both her special and her ult. And with the one shot, it's going to be very particular on how you get Odin going to last out the barrage of attacks that could take place. Now, I think what he had in there instead of the zombie juggernaut was Pav, and I thought that was a good addition. The thing that I noticed when mine got cleared is that maybe it would have worked better with a tank. So I put Zugs in there. So we're gonna see how that goes. Room 2 is something he was saying, just go ahead and have your annihilators in there with Doom, because that still works. Now I'm not sure if he had scroll in there. I think he had scroll in there, so it pulls the mercs. And so what I thought is, well, I tried it without scroll. It still pulled the mercs, but it didn't pull APOC. So my hope is that it causes some confusion, because I would think that they might want to use APOC with some type of Odin counter, or just APOC in the counter period on room 1. And so maybe the Dorm with Doom makes it a bit more of an efficiency sink if they just go in with straight mercs and they have no APOC. So that's the idea behind having Dorm and Doom in there. Room 3 is just to make sure that they use Cabal, some type of Cabal counter, because you can't really go in with Superior 6. You got Scroll in there, he kind of negates that. if they have Illuminati, that's something they could use here. But I would think that they would probably cabal it, and they could probably use some type of team that would work. You know, you can have a lizard in there that will work against the Spider-Verse you have there. And here, the idea of just throwing in like a Mysterio is basically just to kind of ensure that the New Warriors don't work. I think the team is pretty big, and New Warriors probably don't work as well. The idea they maybe would do is New Warriors Kestrel, and so that could be something. But I think most guys are just going to go in with your Night Stalkers. If you put Cable here, Night Stalkers, Emma is the counter, and so that works fine. So I don't think you want to really put your Cable in there anymore. This defense is something Updog suggested still to run because it is hard to beat. Now, I did have a guy go in and try to sack it. The sack did not work, so he went in with Superior 6. He had to cancel out, and then so he had to use his Illuminati here, where I'm thinking he probably wanted to use Illuminati on Room 1. The problem is that this can still be sacked with the Infinity Watch. Now, he did do an Infinity Watch that didn't work. And so if he were able to sack it with the Infinity Watch and get rid of Captain Britain, then Superior 6 would be fine here. I think the problem is when you don't get rid of either one of the tanks, then Superior 6 could have problems. And so for Room 5, the idea behind it is just to have a tune that will go early and fast with an ult, so that you have a chance to get your Shadow King going. And that's the idea behind the war. So as I was thinking about it, testing counters this morning, I said, well, we know we're going to probably use here that Void Knight type counter. And I think I have enough options with Superior 6 that I'm going to go ahead and put Lizard in here. So we'll try it with Lizard because if nothing else, that kind of harms or sets aback the Void Knight counter. So we're going to try that. And instead of having Mysterio here, we'll put it in New War because New War serves the same purpose when you're looking at having the New Warriors go in, and that kind of changes things up if they were to try to use the New Warriors Kestrel here. So I think this just makes it better for New Warriors not to work and just kind of forces the Night Stalkers here. So these are the couple changes I'm making to my defense, and that's the rationale behind using them. I think that it's not about stopping the one-shots. It's just about trying to make for more of an efficiency sink. And so that's what this defense is about. It's just because it's going to come down to an efficiency game. And so my goal is, of course, with Odin on offense, to have better efficiency than him. And I think this defense kind of scrambles it up enough to where that could happen. And so I just wanted to add this section in because Pat made some last-minute suggestions. And, of course, there's a minute left. I want to check my defense. But he suggested putting Sasquatch in 1 and Zuggs in 3 because of Zuggs' charges. And if they use the old man Logan against the Illuminati with Zuggs, then it probably wouldn't work. And so you do need to have a pretty good size Zuggs. He was saying at least a 7-7. That tends to squeeze by stat-wise. So those two changes there. And the other change he was saying is that Spider Society Scroll is still a harder counter for the Cabal to beat into than just the version I had with the X-Men Pav and Scroll. So, and his thing was you might have a use for Gambit and Rogue on offense, and you probably wouldn't use the rest of the Spider-Verse on offense. So that makes sense. So this is an option as well, and I'm going to try this defense first. Okay, guys, we'll see how it goes. I'll be streaming a little bit later on tonight with these attacks, and you can see what my offense does, and perhaps my opponent will have his defense, his offense into my defense at that time too. Okay, guys, chat later.